Dang it. I forgot the old safety specs. All right, now it's time to work. You know, as I was working today, I couldn't help but think to myself, boy, I really wish I could go work on more stuff after I get off work. So here we are. A little bit different. Wasn't really planning on making a video out of this, but I figured why the heck not. So what I have here, dripping all over the place, is a 09 Mercury Milan. And the complaint on this thing, the customer complaint, is that about a week ago, the brakes started getting squishy. Now, I drove it. They are a little off from what they usually are. I had looked at it not that long ago and recommended some brakes. And unfortunately, we didn't have time to get it in and get them replaced. So here we are, a Friday night, beautiful Friday night. Forecast is not great. It's already coming down pretty heavy. I definitely wanted to get this thing in and get it looked at before it got too bad out here. So we'll get the wheels ripped off this thing and get a look at it. I've already ordered some parts. I knew from the last time I looked at it what was getting down there. And hopefully that's all that's wrong with it. Now the other thing with this, like I said, I wasn't really planning on making a video out of this, so it's going to be a little rough shooting it from the old phone here, and I don't have any of my gear or anything with me, but like I said, may make for an entertaining little video. We'll see what we run into, and yeah, if anything, maybe it'll help some guys out if they need to do brakes on a Fusion or a Milan. There's a few little things to look for, so let's get into it. Never fails. All right, well, like I said, I've looked at these before. I knew the rear brakes were pretty thin. You can kind of see, I'll bring you in for a closer look here, but you can kind of see that there's a fair amount of rust on there. These pads are down to nothing. Now, if you hear random splashing and noises in the background, that's just this. Welcome to my world. These rotors are in pretty poor shape. I'd imagine they're probably original ones. Yep. So, original rotors, and you can see those pads are just right down there. The fronts aren't in terrible shape, so I'm going to leave those alone for tonight. But I did pull off all four wheels because, well, why not rotate it while I got it in? I'm trying to beat the real heavy stuff coming down. It's been kind of spitting all day long and accumulated some, but it's really starting to come down now. So I'm going to try and knock this out as fast as I can. Of course, make a video for you lovely folks. For the most part, if you're taking this as a how-to type of video, I really hope that if you're digging into the brakes, you know how to pull a caliper off, stuff like that. Like I said, if there's any major important things, I'll really bring you in, but caliper bolts, a couple of those, pop the thing off, and go from there. That's all there is to that. Ta-da! That might be part of the problem. I think that brake pad's froze in there. Grab a hammer. You know, another thing, sorry on the audio, if you're picking up the heat running in the background. It's Iowa and it's cold out. Couple important things that we're going to run into here. Obviously, I got to pull the caliper bracket off to get the rotor off. I'll go through a few things on that, you know, honestly, on most of the videos I've seen on the internet, they don't really show you a couple critical steps when you're doing a brake job that can lead to issues down the road, one of which you just saw. So we'll get this caliper bracket popped off, grab some tools, and get this rotor popped off, and we'll be in business here. Here on these Fusions and Milans is actually to get this caliper bracket bolt. The easiest way is, that's why they, sorry about the light there. The easiest way is this hole through the frame, or through the control arm there. Let's see if I can reach through here and show you. Right there. So that one's kind of tucked down in there. The other one's just right out in the open, no big deal. You want to make sure you drop everything on the floor. There's one caliper bolt. Caliper bracket bolt. Been a long day. You know, another thing I've always wondered, why on all these YouTube how-tos does everybody use hand tools for everything? Now I get that some guys don't have electric cordless tools, air tools, stuff like that. But nobody really cares how you take the bolt out, do they? As long as it comes out. Anyway, second one out, caliper bracket off. We'll worry about that in a bit. Let's get the rotor off. So I guess in this instance, I'm going to use some electric tools. Just makes my life easier. Now if you find that these things are stuck on there, you can get one of the kind of bit drivers. I have one I can show you. But typically those Torx head ones aren't terribly stuck in there because they don't need to be super tight, guys. If you got a hammer on these things or do anything crazy, you're putting it in way too tight. Anyway, let's see if the LFH can take care of this. Yep. It's amazing for an Iowa car. Now before you go just slapping new parts on, there's a few things that you really want to look at. First being getting a crap in your eye. Anyway, a few things you want to look at. You want to make sure that your mounting surface is clean. You don't want any rust, any crap buildup on there. Also, the hub of this thing, that rotor is a nice tight hub-centric fit. You could probably see before I took it off, there's a fair bit of corrosion crap buildup on here. You want to make sure that's all clean before you put your new rotor on. Now, lucky for me, this thing's in fairly decent shape. Like I said, a little bit of corrosion. Just hit it with the old toothbrush here. I'll bring you in for a little bit closer look what I'm talking about. You see all this corrosion built up around here. That's what you don't want. Even though this doesn't make any contact with the brake rotor, the wheel sits against this. So again, kind of the same thing as I was saying before, is you get that big ridge of corrosion buildup. You put the wheel on, you go to torque it down. Hopefully you guys are torquing down lug nuts, but you go to torque it down, everything clicks in. As soon as you take off driving, that wheel wobbles a little bit and those lug nuts work loose as that wheel seats in. Just make sure you're taking care to get everything clean. I guess advice from a guy that does this every single day. Well, not necessarily brake jobs every single day, but a guy that makes his living doing this. The other added benefit of this guy, if the beard gets a little out of control, not bad. Yep, so as far as right here, we're pretty much done. Now I'm going to take you over to the bench and we're going to walk through this caliper bracket. Again, a couple things you want to look at here on this caliper bracket. The biggest thing that I see glazed over when guys are talking about brakes is lubrication. Now this is probably one of the most important things you can do when you're doing a brake job. Please lubricate parts in the right places. So the first step you want to do on these is pull your caliper slides. If you have an orientation to them, you can see one side has a little rubber in it, the other side doesn't. You want to remember where those go. So this one went on this side. I'm going to just put it in the same orientation out of the way over here. Now the next thing, hardware. Please replace your hardware. You get brakes squeaking, you get all kinds of stuff going on if you don't do that. It comes with the brakes anyway. Again, going back to the toothbrush here, they get real crazy. Bunch of rust buildup on the back side of there. You know, think about how many miles you've put on this car, and that little channel down in there has your hardware sitting in it. So you get corrosion buildup behind there. What happens when you get corrosion buildup behind there? It pushes out. What happens then? Exactly what you saw earlier. That brake pad was seized in place, and I had to beat on it with a hammer to get it to move. You want those brake pads to be easy going. They should return on their own. If you find anything is too bad with it, you got too much corrosion, get a little file, get whatever you need to get in there and get those things smoothed back down. These don't look too bad, but I am going to hit them with something. Nice little tiny wheel. You can use a Dremel. Those little cutoff wheels on the Dremels work great. Now you're not cutting, you're just cleaning. So all I want to do is get in here. Get in there and clean that surface. And you can already see the difference there. I'm just taking all the crud off. You can see I'm not throwing sparks, nothing. I'm just using the abrasion of the wheel to clean this thing up. And what that's going to do is give me that nice surface for that hardware to sit against. There we go. Matter of seconds. Nice, shiny, clean surface. Those don't have a bunch of crud down in them. The slides were pretty clean. If you do get a bunch of rust or scale or junk buildup in these, what you can do is you can just take a drill bit that's the right size that fits in there and run it down in. Again, you're not taking any metal out. You just want to use it to kind of clean and scrub in there and get that junk out. Lubrication. Say it with me. Lubrication. The most overlooked part on brake jobs. You would not believe, unless you're a mechanic, how many times you get cars come in the door that just had the brakes done by someone else and everything's put together dry and now they have complaints. I like to use this Permatex stuff. It's ceramic, it's extreme temperature, it resists corrosion, all those fancy things. You can read it yourself here. There we go. If that's not backwards. Is that backwards to you guys? Anyway, whatever. But, yeah. Brake lube, major thing. So one thing I like to do, that brand new bottle, good stuff. One thing I like to do when I do grind these down like this is just get a tiny bit on here and just wipe it on there. That way you're just treating that bare metal that you just made so it doesn't instantly rust. Now you don't want a ton of it. Like I said, you really just want a light coating to help keep it from rusting pretty much instantly. And you want to make sure there's no excess in there. You can see I'm already taking some out, because that'll just end up squishing out and getting on your rotor. Now, I don't know if guys just oversimplify things in their videos just to make a quick, you know, jumpy, fancy, flashy video, but I'd rather see you guys do this the right way and not have problems and have actually gained some knowledge and information from my video than get a million views. Or we could do both. Anyway, next step, clean up these caliper slides. Now, I know my lighting's terrible, but you know, there's just old lube on here. And you can see all I'm doing is just taking a rag, wiping the thing off. If you run into them where they got some rust or corrosion buildup in there, you can hit them on the old cheek poker, wire wheel, you know, whatever you got to do to get them cleaned up. But really, you're just trying to get any contaminants and junk out of there. And see, pretty much like brand new. Just wiped all that garbage off there. And then again, lubrication. As much as you can fit on that thing, the better off you're going to be. And more so, you want it at the end. So what I like to do is get a big glob on there and just put a big old ball of it right on the end. So that way when you're pushing this thing in, it gets it all the way down to the end of it, of the tube. Let's see, that was sitting that way, so this one goes over here. Squish her down in there. And you can see I actually have so much lube that this thing won't compress all the way. Not a big deal. We'll get it in there when we put it together. And jam her in there. And there we go, that's about it. I'm gonna throw some hardware on this thing, and it's about ready to go back on. Time to start throwing things together. I know what you're thinking. I'm gonna shut this video off right now because this guy's an idiot. He has no clue what he's doing. He's got the rotor on backwards. I know I have the rotor on backwards. And that's because this is probably the second most important step. Guys, when they package these things up, they come coated in oil. What's gonna happen if you just take them out of the box, slap them on here, put your new brake pads on, and send the thing down the road? All that oil that's on here is gonna get embedded in your brake pads, and you're gonna have squeaks, you're gonna have poor braking, you're probably gonna glaze the rotors, glaze the pads, and tough luck, right? So hit her with the big dog, do whatever you gotta do. Waste 10 cans of brake clean, I don't really care. Just make sure you get these things done. What I like to do is I get myself some, you know, just white paper towels, and I'll wipe the thing. You know, spray it off, wipe it. If you're getting a bunch of junk on the white paper towel, spray it some more. That's what I'm talking about. Spray it again. See the difference? That to that, much better. I'm happy with that. So, put her on the right way. Jackpot. Now this may seem like a boring step and a lot of work for nothing. Trust me guys, if you want a good brake job, you want it to last, you want them to run quiet, take the few extra minutes and do these things. It's worth it. Again, back to our little screws. Don't send them home, all right? You don't need an impact. This thing is overkill. You can literally just hand tighten them. You can see I'm barely putting any torque on them. They don't do anything, all right? All they do is hold that rotor from falling off right now. Once the brakes are in there, the brakes hold it. That looks good. Make sure you're not rubbing the backing plate, anything like that. You can tell it's not rubbing because of the way it is. So, if you're here watching this video as a how-to, this is probably the part that you came for. The calipers, they are screw-in calipers. Now, it does take a special tool to do them. You can buy a big kit. You can buy universal little tools from the parts store. You can probably rent a kit from most parts stores to do this job, but please don't try and crank on them with whatever wrench you got or whatever pair of pliers or anything like that. All you're going to do is ruin them. So use the right tool for the job. If you don't have the right tool for the job, get the right tool for the job. Are you starting to understand why mechanics have so many tools? This is one car, and I've had to use a good assortment. If you guys are doing this with minimal tools and, you know, don't want to get a bunch of money wrapped up in it, you can still go rent the tool and return it, and you have $0 invested. I'd recommend to go that way. But if you own the car, I always say that if you do it once, you're probably going to have to do it again. So it's worth investing in the tool, the right tool. Let me go grab some of those tools. I'll be right back, and we'll show you what we got to do here. All right, what we're looking at here is the screw-in portion of the caliper. You can see these little tangs in it. Now what you want to do is make sure that your tool lines up with those tangs, and then as you're screwing the tool in, it compresses that and turns it. And that's the big part of why you can't just use some pliers or something to get in there and twist this thing, because it also has to have the downward force to push it in while it's twisting. So I showed you a quick clip of the tool that I use. It's an Astro tool. I believe it was from Amazon. It's either that or one of the, I don't know where, Harbor Freight or one of the tool trucks. Anyway, like I said, you want to make sure you got the right adapter for it to fit those tangs on there. And then all it is just a little press as you screw this thing in. See how it runs out? Now you want to make sure on these calipers, not just on these, but any of them that you do that are screw-in, sometimes there's a left hand, sometimes there's a right hand thread. So like this kit, you can see, the other ones go the other way. So if you start using one and notice that it's spinning, but it's not going in, try the other one. Sometimes it's easier to leave the brake rotor off and put one bolt in just the caliper bracket to hold this thing so you can get in here, because sometimes it does take quite a bit of force to get these things going. Hopefully that's not the case here. What I'm really hoping is they didn't get overextended. That can be bad news, and guess what I don't have? Calipers. So basically you just go along, make sure this thing stays tight in here, twist it in. You can probably see that been enough force put on this thing over the years that the whole handle's bent. So sometimes these things can be a bear. This one seems to be going pretty good. Happy with that for sure, but I also have one more side to do. Alright, there we go. It's all the way in. You can see that's compressed that all the way down. We'll get this tool out of here and we'll start putting the brakes back together, and we're done with one side. Alright, I went ahead and put the caliper bracket on. Again, kind of just give it a spin, make sure nothing's rubbing, nothing's doing anything it shouldn't. Yep. So, next part, pads. And guess what else? Lube. Please, lube stuff. Now again, you want to make sure you get lube on all your contact surfaces and nowhere else. You get it on the rotor, it's just like having oil on the rotor. You get it on the brake pad, same deal. So really all we're shooting for here is just these nubs on the end where they make contact, and you can overdo this. So you want some, not too much, not too little. I know it's kind of a fine line, but you know, just a good dollop on there. You don't have to go nuts, because again, if you get too much, it'll find its way to that rotor, and you'll be squeaking, you'll have all the same symptoms. So there we go, lubed up, ready to go. Now guys, these should just fall in. You shouldn't have to hammer them in, you shouldn't have to do anything crazy. They should just snap in there, and we're on our way. Just like that. If you got to put any more effort into it than that, something's wrong. Again, just a little bit of pad rub on there, which is perfectly fine. And then we want to make sure our caliper goes on. At that point, caliper's on. All we got left, caliper bolts, and this side is finished. Oh, where'd my socket go? Nope, not that one. I'm sure there's some specific torque spec for all these bolts. I usually go till the old elbow pops on them. It's caliper brackets. I mean, they give you big Hawson bolts on these things. That's a lot of force on some bolts. So you cranking on this thing isn't going to hurt it. Now, under tightening it, yes, they can back off, they can work loose. A lot of times I'm a big fan of, even if the factory didn't come with Loctite on the caliper bracket bolts, I will put some on there. These ones, same thing. I put some blue Loctite on there. You don't need to go for the red, guys. Blue's plenty good. And then I just crank the things down. I'm just using the old 3/8 ratchet, long handle. So however much that equates to. Caliper bracket bolts, on the other hand, don't need to be crazy tight. They're typically just small little bolts, and you put too much on them, you're gonna break them off. Again, you're gonna have a bad day. Just like that, good enough. There we go, one side done. I'm gonna hammer out the other side, and I'll get back with you here, and we'll talk about bedding these things in. Just a quick check on the weather. Yep, it is starting to pile up, so we better get this done quick, get out of here. Alright guys, so why is bedding in brakes important? Well, you want to heat cycle all the materials, you want to heat cycle the pads, you want to heat cycle the rotors. You want them to bed in with each other, and the idea is that they don't glaze, and it helps for longer pad life, less noise, all the features and benefits. So, I am going to take it out. I'm going to do the best I can to try and get them heat cycled. There's plenty of slop and slush on the road, so that's going to make it difficult as well with that stuff getting slung up on the rotors, but it's got to be done. We can't just ignore it. So I'll take you with me. We'll go out and try and bed these brakes in, and yeah, project completed. Well, it's pretty much me and the snowplows out right now, and I got my first obstacle ahead of me. I've been plowed into the lot. Well, we keep going. I think we're gonna have to back up and take a run at this. All right. Hopefully nobody's coming. Oh, we made it. All right. Can't see because the car hasn't warmed up yet, and having this light on doesn't help either. But ABS kicking in. It's gonna be hard to bed these things in, but I need some heat so I can see. We may get just gentle stops and a lot of them this time. That's my visibility as of right now. Whoa, they haven't even plowed over there. Speed bump. Good time to stop again. Well, I'm going to keep doing this for a while, and hopefully at least get a little bit of heat built up in these things. And that'll pretty much wrap that up. That'll probably end this video off. I'm going to get inside and probably get chewed out by the customer for taking so long, because not only did I do brakes, I was goofing around with you guys on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped if you're here for help, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.